What's up, kids? This is your Nick Minota here to bring you another Monday Night Raw review for the night of, what is tonight? April 4th, 2016. I was gonna say 14 because it's April 4th and I keep thinking fours. Um, it's another Monday night, Raw after Mania. Obviously, everyone knows these are the hype Raws where, everything's quote unquote better. Uh, we'll talk about that when we talk about that. So, first up, as I adjust my mic, which surprisingly doesn't cause a spike, but I have like a weird humming sound effect that goes on in the background, so that's annoying. Um, First and foremost, jeez, what's words are hard. Um, Raw opens up with Vince coming out, talking, thanking the fans, saying, hey, thanks to you all, and thanks to Shane for jumping off the top of the steel cage and solidifying his failure and his loss. Now no one can hold anything over my head anymore. No one can, badmouth me or anything. I'm the best. Blah 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 blah. And Shane comes out, and Shane is saying, he's saying, he's apologizing to the fans, saying thank you for the opportunity, thank you for, all the love and whatnot that they've shown him. And he says, goodbye. He says his goodbyes, and he walks away. And right before he walks away, Vince tells him, "Oh no! It's for tonight. How about you run the show as proof that you would never be able to run the show? Let's just give you your one night." Right. So he gives Shane this one night, and so Raw is, and he says Raw is going to be a disaster with Shane running the show. So that's that. Shane is running the show for tonight. So the first match we get is New Day versus the League of Losers, aka the League of Nations. But it's Burger King, Barrett, and Sheamus facing off against the New Day for the tag titles, Kofi and Big E. To make a long story short, Sheamus gets in a couple cheap shots from outside the ring. Alberto Del Rio doesn't do much but be Mexican. And in typical LOL, that's my name for the League of Losers, in typical LOL fashion, Kofi eventually gets the upper hand over King Barrett and wins, and New Day retains. After the match, the League of Losers kick Barrett out, and then they beat him. Well, they say we're only as strong as our weakest link, and they beat up Barrett and kick him out of the League of Losers because he is the biggest of all the League of Losers, because he's leaving the WWE, which, I mean, I don't know. Depends on where his career goes. He might be a winner. But his contract runs out in June, and apparently he's not going to renew. So, bye-bye Burger King Barrett. They beat down Barrett, they kick him out of the ring, only to be attacked by the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And so that's the thing that happened. They got attacked by a bunch of ghosts, and I'm not excited for it. So that's the thing that happened. I didn't know ghosts could touch people. But yeah, three dead men pop up out of nowhere, and they beat up Sheamus and all, and Sheamus, Rusev, and what's his boy's name? Alberto the River. And apparently we're gonna get we're probably gonna get League of Losers versus the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. I'm just gonna call them Christmas Carol from now on because it's too hard to say all three of the names. So we're gonna get League of Losers versus the Christmas Carols. So I won't be. It'll happen. We'll see what happens. Next, backstage, you see Vince is leaving the arena, and when asked why, he says he doesn't want to be around when the ship goes down. Of course, we'll find out next week that this was like the best Raw they've had in forever. Because it's the Raw after Mania, so it was going to be decent no matter what, because it has to be. It's the Raw after Mania. But after Vince leaves, we get Summer Rae in the ring saying, for whatever reason, Sasha, she's just in the ring bad-mouthing Sasha because we can't have Sasha being all up in the women's title main event right now. But Summer Rae is in the ring saying Sasha wasted her Mania moment. But as soon as she says that, Sasha is out and immediately shuts it down, saying, I'm Sasha Banks. Who are you? If you ask me, Summer Rae is just some chick named after a porn star. I don't know her. There's a Summer Rae porn star, and then there's Summer Rae in the WWE, and both are just about as relevant to me. Next, or well, not next. Summer Rae just gets Sasha gets the easy win over Summer Rae. Like, Summer Rae does not matter whatsoever because it's Summer Rae. That's it. And More importantly, she beat Summer Rae so bad. Summer Rae also started doing porn alongside the porn star Summer Rae. So no more Summer Rae in WWE. She now does porn, and it's gonna be Summer Rae and Summer Rae, and one of them's gonna spell it Ray, and the other one will spell it Rae. And now they're doing like twin porn together. Apparently, I don't know. I don't care. I just don't care what Summer Rae does with her witchy poo nose. She looks like a blonde version of the Wicked Witch of the West to me. I'm sorry. She's got a crow nose. She looks like she should be in a video game, like being the like one of the bad guys or like one of the witches you use to like in the beginning of Dark Souls. You know, like when you go talk to the random witch that gives you creepy exposition in like Dark Souls or Demon Souls or Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3 or whatever. She just looks like that creepy witch character that gives you exposition to the plot and does weird stuff and gives you a random item that you'll never need until later when you find out you need it when you look up a walkthrough. Anyway. So Sasha Banks gets a win. Summer Rae gets to go to doing porn alongside the other Summer Rae, and the world is a better place. Next, we get the debut of Apollo Crews versus Tyler Breeze, and Apollo Crews basically there to beat on Tyler Breeze and prove that Tyler is the new Dolph. That's it, people. For anyone who was excited about Tyler Breeze, because he was kind of getting a little bit of a push down in NXT for a little bit, but you kind of knew he was coming up to the main roster. Everyone beats on Dolph Ziggler when they come up to the main roster, so Tyler Breeze was no different. And I mean, the guy looks like Tyler Breeze, or he looks like Dolph Ziggler and John Morrison, aka Johnny Nitro, aka Johnny Mondo, now did the fusion dance together. Like that's what he looks like. He looks like Dolph Ziggler dressed like Johnny Nitro. Like he looks like he'd be fitting perfect with Eminem back in the day. You know Joey Mercury, Johnny Nitro, and Melina. Like, there's really no difference other than the fact that his hair is blonde as opposed to brown. That's it. But so Apollo Crews, great debut, just showing how he's a great big man, high flying athlete. But I'm worried about him in WWE. Not to say that everyone in WWE is a racist, but everyone in WWE is a racist, and he's a black athlete, and he probably won't be. I mean, I honestly hope the best for him, like him to be the guy that outshines, I mean, of course, unless someday I miraculously wind up in WWE, but for him to be the guy that's the new, like, he's the guy now. Now we got a new black athlete at, or the black athlete at top, because we don't have one at all. We had one in The Rock for a little while, Booker T for like 2 minutes until Triple H said, I should bury him. So hopefully Apollo Crews actually gets to do something in WWE, but I'll reserve judgment until I see how they use him. But for now, they got him beaten on Dolph Ziggler 2.0, so I'm fine with that. He gets the win over Dolph Ziggler 2.0. From now on, I'm calling Tyler Breeze Dolph Ziggler, and I'm calling Dolph Ziggler Nikki Nemeth. Making that official right now, because Tyler Breeze is the new Dolph Ziggler, and Dolph Ziggler doesn't matter so much. He will go to becoming Nikki Nemeth again, like he was when he was in the Spirit Squad. So, Tyler Breeze is now Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler is now Nikki Nemeth. Remember that. It will be on the test. Next, we get Roman Reigns, who comes out and is getting booed. For anyone who watches my reviews, you know how I feel about this, with the whole fan base hating WWE, or hating Roman Reigns and booing him for their asinine reasons. Most of which being that, he's not an Indies. He's not a skinny Indies guy. He's not even an Apollo Crews where he's a big guy that can move like that. He's getting preferential treatment because he's a Samoan. He's The Rock's cousin, and he's a WWE product. He never grinded it out in the Indies or anything like that. Hey man, you can feel however you want to feel, but all I'm gonna say is hashtag give Roman a chance. Just give him a chance to be something. But nobody wants to even give him a chance. Like, people will give a chance for a John Cena match to turn good, even though you know it's going to be trash because it's John Cena. But they won't give Roman Reigns a chance at all, saying he's the new Cena, yet cheering Cena when he showed up last night at Mania, and then booing Roman for being the new Cena when Cena still exists. But whatever, whatever. I'm not here to argue semantics. Anyway, Roman Reigns does exactly what I've been saying he should do, and I'm glad WWE finally caught on. He comes out, he gets booed. He says, hey, I'm not a good guy. And I'm not a bad guy. I'm just the guy. And then he says, setting him up as a great anti-hero a la Stone Cold Steve Austin, which we'll talk about that later, or his whole anti-hero-ness later. And I said a long time ago that he is the Stone Cold of this generation, whereas Dean is The Rock, not reverse. Everyone keeps getting that wrong. Everyone keeps saying because he's like The Rock, he just comes out and blah, blah, blah. No, he talks very little. Roman should be talking very little and then hurting people. That's it. The same thing Stone Cold did. Stone Cold would cut elongated promos, but they were mostly comedy based. Usually he'd just walk into the ring and stunner a bunch of people and leave. But anyway, he sets himself up as kind of like an anti-hero, a la Stone Cold. At least able to fight both good guys and bad guys, not just be like, he's just Roman Reigns. He's not a heel, he's not a face, he's just out to win. So, you can have situations where you'll have a guy who people hate, in theory, would hate more and boo, and then cheer Roman, in situations where, Roman would be the good guy and they would, or, Roman would be the heel and they boo him, but they'll boo Roman no matter what. But anyway, he says that Shane let him come out here and say that anyone who wants a match with him can get one, and that's it. Like that's all he says. He's like, I'm not the good guy, I'm not the bad guy, I'm just the guy, and anyone who wants to fight can come get it, and that's it. He does not talk again. Perfect Roman Reigns promo. He just does not talk. He waits there, holds the title over the rope, waits for his next challenger, and he is met by Chris Jericho, who calls the crowd idiots, and they respond by chanting, "We are idiots." Yes, this crowd very quickly became lumped into the class of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Tampa, Florida for me, because they were just downright annoying in a lot of spots. They weren't like your typical after Mania, shtick where it's just like, they're out there having fun, got some funny chants, and when we were putting on the same garbage that WWE's putting on, when you get a Raw after Mania crowd will not accept another Randy Orton John Cena match, that's not, but they weren't getting that tonight, so they just needed to be involved in the matches, and that was it. Chanting for the guy they want to see. Getting involved the right way. But this time, the Raw after Mania crowds, everyone always has to try to top the one before. They act dumber and dumber every year. It's whatever. The WWE fan base has gone from being just accepting garbage to now complete snobs. And everyone is a smark all of a sudden. Like, everyone is a smark. Everyone knows everything and how the business could run perfect and blah, 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 blah. But, whatever. I'm not here to argue that. But we went from being moronic people. Well, not we, because I didn't. I still accept the same thing I accept since day one. But WWE Universe, quote-unquote, went from being idiots who accepted whatever was put on their screen to idiots who think they're smarter than everyone else. And there's nothing worse than an idiot who thinks they're smarter than everyone else, a la Donald Trump. So, but Jericho, he's Jericho, so he shuts up he tries to pull heat from the crowd, and but they still boo Roman because it's Roman, and I like I said last night, they just want to boo Roman for the sake of booing Roman. But Jericho is met by AJ, of course. And then they both are, AJ's like, whatever, I'm not just going to fade away. Well, he says this backstage, but the point of what he was saying in the ring as well was, I may have just lost the one match, but I'm not just going to fade out of here. I didn't work my whole life to get here for nothing. Excuse me. I want a shot at the title. And they are met by Kevin Owens, who does not care that those two are in the ring. He just wants a title because he lost his title. That is it. So he's pointing at the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, saying he wants it. Doesn't even look at Jericho and AJ, which is exactly what Kevin Owens should be doing. Because Kevin Owens understands his character all too well. Because I'm pretty sure it's just mostly Kevin Owens, minus the whole being a jerk thing. But I'm pretty sure that's pretty much Kevin Owens when he steps in the ring. So, and Kevin Owens, of course, is met by Sami Zayn, and they all duke it out and brawl it out, and eventually, Sami Zayn and KO, throw each other out of the ring, and then AJ throws out, I don't remember how the order goes. They all get out of the ring eventually until it's just Jericho and Roman, without saying a single word, just spears Chris Jericho and walks away. That's it. And that is exactly what I said at the top of this little segment right here. Roman Reigns should be saying very little and hitting people. I tweeted about it and everything. So Roman Reigns should say very little and hit people. That is his only job. Say very little and hit people. You hit people, you say very little. That is it, Roman. That's all you need to do. Point blank. Nothing else to be said. Cool. Moving on. Backstage, Shane announces that there's going to be a fatal four-way, AJ versus Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn versus Jericho, to decide who's going to be the new number one contender. Next, we get Baron Corbin, who comes out and pitches basically his heel character, which is saying, some of you here don't know my name, but I don't care. All that matters is that I won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Which is perfect. Once again, this is a guy, big dude, who needs to say very little and just do his work in ring. He's got a match with Nicky Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler version 1, who is now Nick Nemeth, in case you didn't remember. He matters so little he goes back to his original name. But Baron controlled most of the match, and at one point even hit a deep six, which is like a spinning power slam that he does, and Nikki kicked out of it. That bothered me. That Nikki Nemeth just kicks out of the deep six. Like, I get it. If he kind of just like slammed him and then Nikki rolled out of the ring, then that'd be fine. But he didn't. So, Nikki Nemeth can't just be kicking out of high impact moves. But whatever. Eventually, Baron Corbin boots Nick Nemeth over the barricade, and the match ends via double countout. And Baron basically tells the ref that the beating that he's about to give Nikki Nemeth is all the ref's fault, and he hits Nick with the end of days on the outside of the ring, a move that looks really cool, and Nick Nemeth can sell, so it definitely work a move. And he's a smaller guy, whereas Baron Corbin is a big dude, so it looked really good. And he walks away. Baron Corbin walks away standing tall, and Nikki Nemeth is been demoted to his current name, so yeah, that's how little he matters. And then next we get a recap of Brock versus Dean. It doesn't matter. Followed by that, we get Zack Ryder coming out to the ring because he has an IC title match. Now, last night I said that he was going to lose, as well as a lot of people said, he was going to lose the title to whoever he faced on Monday. Like, we said that, we were straight up like, he's going to lose the title come Raw. What happens? He's facing The Miz. And all I could think is please do not let him lose the title to a man whose greatest accomplishment is being able to tie down and somehow get it in with Maryse. And lo and behold, what do we get? The Miz outside the ring with Zack Ryder, gets in Zack Ryder's dad's face and starts, poking him in the chest and whatnot, so Zack Ryder's dad pushes him. I'm just going to call him Dad Ryder. Or Zack Dadder. I could call him Dad Ryder. Who's crazy buff, by the way. It's weird. But, Long Island and whatnot. That Long Island, Jersey area. Or those dudes just be in the gym all the time. And then Maryse just comes from the crowd and comes up and smacks Dad Ryder. And while Zack is looking at his dad and wondering why Maryse is smacking him in the face and all that, The Miz just hits him with a Skull Crusher finale and wins. And Miz is your new Intercontinental Champion, and Maryse gets in the ring and poses with him, and everyone's like, how could you hate The Miz? I mean, he's with Maryse, and it's like, I didn't really like Maryse. And I don't like The Miz. I think she's attractive and she's too good for The Miz. The Miz has got a stupid frog pedophile face. I hate him with a passion. That's it. Lucky him, I guess. But, so they have a match on SmackDown, so, it doesn't exist. Whatever SmackDown is. It's the Nikki Nemeth of shows. It's the ghost. They have a match on the Christmas Carol show, where the tag team Christmas Carols are going to be. Next we get a promo for the Vaudevillains to be on the Christmas Carol show on SmackDown, that thing that doesn't exist. So that means they don't have a debut until next week. They would be debuting next week. I know it said they're supposed to be debuting on SmackDown, but SmackDown's not a real thing, so they couldn't possibly debut on an imaginary platform. Next is Charlotte getting presented with the WWE with the new WWE's Women's Championship. I keep saying new because they keep trying to act like we didn't have a Women's Championship before. And the crowd at this point is just annoying to me. They're singing Bayley's theme and just generally being annoying. But what's even more annoying is that Charlotte just can't ignore them and be a heel. Like, she's trying to do the fake pandering thing. I'm like, oh no, I couldn't do this without you guys and all these losers in the ring and blah blah. Like the fake Mean Girls kind of like, oh yeah, you guys are all great, but not as good as me thing. But long story short, all the divas walk out on her and Natty calls her out. But Charlotte says the Flairs are better than the Hearts, basically. And Natty slaps on the sharpshooter, but Ric Flair manages to pull Charlotte out of the ring. So we're gonna probably be getting Charlotte versus Natalya, which should be good. But we know Natalya's not winning. JBL on the commentary table calls her Natty Hart, which is annoying. One, calling her Natty Hart just sounds weird. They've been calling her Natalya for the longest, trying to just take away her entire. And she's not. By the way, she's not a Hart. She's a Hart, but she's a Neidhart specifically. So. Her dad is Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So to call her Natty Hart is just weird. Not to mention the fact that she's married to Tyson Kidd. So her last name, I'm pretty sure she took part of his last. She at least hyphened her last name. So that's even still less true than before. She is a Hart, but she's not. She's a Neidhart, which is like they're literally the cousins of the Hart family. They're just. WWE tries to do that thing where they want you to remember some things and forget others. So he calls her Natty Hart, and it's just like, oh, now all of a sudden she's Natalya Hart now, she's Natalya Hart now. Like, why? Shut up, JBL. Like, now all of a sudden it's not even JBL's fault. It's whoever It's whoever lets their reins loose. You can't just now say she's a heart because she's going up against a Flair. We don't call Charlotte Flair. We call her Charlotte. We don't call Natalya Neidhart anymore because WWE has this weird fascination with cutting everyone's names down to make them easier to chant. There's no more Antonio Cesaro. It's just Cesaro. There's no more Adrian Neville. It's just Neville. Kevin Owens is. They're probably just gonna start calling him Kevin, which would be weird, and then he'll have like a freaking what's that called? Home Alone gimmick. I wouldn't be surprised. They're gonna call Sami Zayn. They just guys keep coming up to the roster with two names, and then they just cut them down to one. You already have it's just Paige. They're gonna call Sasha Banks Sasha eventually, or they're just gonna start calling Becky Lynch, and then have her I don't know, beating slaves for Black History Month or something. I don't know. Anyway. So that's the thing that happened. Next, we get a promo for Primo and Epico. Apparently, they're not Mexican anymore. They're back to being Puerto Rican. I think that was probably just because of the backlash of having two Caribbean people playing Mexicans. So WWE, with the Lucha Dragons coming up to the main roster, said, all right, we can drop this stupid Mexican gimmick and get to the real Mexican gimmick. Because we have two real Mexicans, not just two Caribbeans. That was the thing that happened. I have no interest in Primo and Epico. I thought for a minute, because I didn't recognize Epico because I haven't seen his face in forever, and also he finally cut his hair. He doesn't have the stupid cornrows anymore, that he was Carlito with cut hair. I kind of wish Carlito would come back. Straight up. If it was Primo and Carlito, Primo, Carlito, and Epico, I'd be cool with that. You have to remember that Primo and Carlito were Unified Tag Team Champions. I believe the first Unified Tag Team Champions, if memory serves. And they just kind of get passed to the side, which kind of sucks. But Epico is just their other cousin or something like that. He's just another Puerto Rican dude. I don't know. Next, we get the Dudleys versus the Usos in a tables match. Long story short, the Dudleys win because what is important is not the fact that who won or lost. It's that they are still at the ring for a very, very long time, and that's important in a second because we cut to backstage, and Kevin Owens attacks Sami Zayn and puts him through a table. So Sami Zayn can't be in the main event tonight because he's hurt, which is actually a very good way to keep those two away from each other. To keep those two away from each other, so you don't have to see any kind of moves they would pull off on each other in a match. I know sometimes you still stick those guys in fatal 4-ways or tags and stuff, and you kind of let them wrestle a little bit against each other, but having them powerbomb him through the table gives Kevin Owens a lot of heel heat, especially in this After Mania crowd who's marking over these tiny guys or the Indies guys, and on top of that it builds more to the story, and it keeps those two from having to face each other in the ring. It just gives Kevin Owens a place to talk more trash, and then Sami Zayn to return at the next pay-per-view all angry and whatnot. But they will never have a match like they had at Final Battle, or they'll never have the matches they had back in ROH. So I like the idea of those two facing off against each other, but it's not gonna be the same. So lowered expectations. But the reason why the Dudleys winning and being at the ring forever was because they were at the ring during the course of that backstage segment. We went to commercial and came back, and they were still ringside, and they didn't leave the ringside for some reason. And the reason was because they are met by Enzo and Cass, Enzo Amore and Big Cass from NXT. Enzo insults them. Cass says, "Come fight us." Basically, the crowd. I will say that this one time they were really good. They knew all of Enzo, and they knew their whole bit, their whole setup of lines from NXT. So that was cool. I don't know them by heart because I don't watch NXT enough, and with them being up on the main roster now, I've probably watched even less. But yeah, they knew their whole shtick, which is cool, and I like Enzo and Cass for the most part. I don't know what there is for them up on the main roster. You have to get the titles on the Lucha Dragons eventually. The Usos are still a tag team people like, or can at least chant for. But you clearly can't just kind of, if the Dudleys leave, then of course they come as a replacement. But, I think the Dudleys aren't leaving until next year because get themselves in the Hall of Fame. That's just that. They finally retire and go into the Hall of Fame, which they should. I don't know why they should. They're straight up. No reason not to. But the Big Cass tells them to come to the ring and fight us. They eventually go to the ring, and but they don't. They decide not to fight, and they walk away. And Big Cass calls them SAWT, soft. bada bing, bada boom, realest guys in the room, or whatever their little motto is. So it was cool to see Enzo and Cass, and they didn't actually have to wrestle. They just came out and were themselves. And Enzo's funny, Cass is intimidating, and he says very little and just what he needs to say. So they're good. It's a good team dynamic. It's reminiscent of, even though not the same as, it's reminiscent of kind of like DX, like the skinny guy who's dancing around and being goofy, and then the big guy who just kind of says what he needs to say. The difference being, of course, that Triple H, despite being the bigger one, they were both funny. Whereas in this tag team, it's Enzo telling the jokes and Kaz being like, "Yo, if you don't like it, come fight us," which is cool. I'm trying to think of a tag team that was like that. And the closest thing off the top of my head I can think of is D-Generation X, just because of the comedy aspect, insulting people and whatnot, like how Enzo does. For now, I'm just going to say they remind me a lot of DX, or they have similarities to DX, but, eventually I'll be like, oh yeah, they were like, such and such, but I'll remember that when I remember that. Finally, we get our main event, which is the Fatal 4-Way for the number one contender, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And, of course, we get informed that, like I said, Sami Zayn can't be in the match because of the injuries sustained to get powerbombed through a table by Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, also, by the way, as a heel, does a great thing where he bows to the crowd for taking out Kevin Owens, and taking out Sami Zayn, which I thought was really cool, because we need more of that, a guy just being like, yeah, I took that dude out, how do you feel about it? So, and then, so Lillian Garcia announced, AJ, Kevin Owens, and Jericho in the ring, and she announces that they have a replacement. According to Shane McMahon found a replacement, and it's none other than a returning Cesaro. So the crowd's super hyped for Cesaro because it's Cesaro, and Cesaro does this thing like how he always does and gets the crowd hype and all that. It was a decent Fatal 4-Way match up until the ending. The ending saw AJ kick out after being hit with a Codebreaker, the move that beat him last night, which I guess you could say was off a springboard, so it was a higher impact, but whatever. And then delivers a Styles Clash and pins Jericho just straight up, which is kind of annoying because last night he couldn't pin Jericho off the Styles Clash. But even more importantly, AJ Styles is your new number one contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. We don't get a stare down between AJ and Roman. We just ended on AJ celebrating, which Dixie Carter must be like slitting her wrist right now. She's in a tub, sobbing, listening to sad music, and just slicing her wrist up. I can only imagine. By the way, suicide and self-harm is not a joke, but Dixie Carter must feel like her world is destroyed now that the biggest star from the company she runs is the number one contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, a place where they got rid of him because, for whatever reason, I don't remember what the reason was they got rid of from TNA, probably just to keep Hulk Hogan around, which we see where that got them. Keep Hulk Hogan and Brooke Hogan around, and we see what those two are. So they let Samoa Joe go. They let all their talent that everyone loved from TNA is all leaving and coming to WWE. So Bobby Roode talking about, or speculated Bobby Roode's coming in. Austin Aries, James Storm. You got AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. All these guys who are packing up and going over. After TNA went down the toilet and packing up and going to WWE, and Dixie's got to feel like her world's over. But my problem with this win, why it being AJ Styles and all, I get why. Because they know people are going to boo Roman no matter what, right? No matter who he faces, they're going to boo him. So you can't stick him in a match with Kevin Owens. He's got to face Sami Zayn. You normally, with normal logic, would not be able to stick him in a match with AJ because AJ is still kind of new to the company and doesn't have that many wins. So rocketing him up to the world title match is not good overall for him. It builds like a high expectation and things like that. He just straight up, like, according to WWE's like logic, or how logic works, supposed to work, he wouldn't technically deserve it. Like, you wouldn't just rocket him up to main event status, even though all the years he put. I mean, whatever. They didn't rocket Kevin Owens to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, even though he put in almost as many years in the Indies as AJ Styles did, and even more so because AJ Styles got put on TNA, and TNA was pretty popping for a while. Well, did I just say popping? It was pretty good for a while, and AJ was the guy, So they didn't just rocket. They haven't even just rocketed Samoa Joe up to the main roster yet. So AJ just got straight up on the main roster. He hasn't been in WWE for that long, and we don't know what the future holds for him. So, even when you add Cesaro, you could now put Cesaro in if you're going to get someone that people are going to cheer for and who is going to face off against Roman Reigns. But the problem is Cesaro's also not that great on the mic, and neither is Roman. So you'd have to have this entire gimmick of them beating at each other or beating each other up, because that's what they would be doing, because they're just two fighters. So the logical way to go would normally be Chris Jericho as the heel and Roman Reigns as the face, because Roman Reigns is still technically, by comparison, a face. The problem is, like I said, people are going to boo Roman no matter what. So what does WWE decide to do? Give it to AJ, because at least people are going to cheer on AJ. The problem is, you can't just give the title to AJ. Roman has to hold it for a little while, or why would anyone ever start to like him? If his run has to be legitimate, you got to give the guy a chance. Like I said, hashtag let Roman. Give Roman a chance, hashtag let me be great, just like, that's what Roman Reigns needs to start putting in stuff, hashtag let me be great, because he's just, people need to calm down and just give him a chance, hear him out, let him see what he can do, see what he can pull off in the ring, he's still young, he's got time to get better, I think people just shut him down immediately. I'm not a big fanboy of him by any means, he goes around cocking his fist all day. I mean, for God's sake, Chase calls him cockfist all the time, but he's not, like I said, his promos need to be cut shorter. His character is defined well enough. He just doesn't go about it right sometimes. They have him talking too much. And, I get the whole pushing him straight up to the top, but you gotta understand that who else is on the roster that a powerhouse face that people can get behind. You have to put all these factors together. Seth Rollins is hurt. He wouldn't be in the position he's in right now if Seth Rollins wasn't hurt. And Dean they're not just going to slap it on Dean because, I don't know, I guess it would make too much sense. And you also, you can't make it, Dean was the guy who had the singles title before everyone else. He had the US title before everyone else. And, in the Shield, you can't just slap it on, slap WWE World Heavyweight Championship on Dean. I don't know why. I honestly can't think of a reason why not. I mean, they could have gave it to Dean. They could have gave it to Dean a while back during that tournament, but they didn't. So now you can't capitalize on Dean because he's got other stuff to do. And Roman that's it. He's the guy. Unless you want to see Cena in the main event again, or Randy Orton, what else do you guys have other than Roman right now? The problem is unless they're turning Roman full-fledged heel, there is no reason for to stick him up against AJ. Because if you stick him up against AJ and you have him beat AJ, here's the pros and cons. If AJ wins, yes, the fans will love it, blah, 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 but you kill Roman Reigns and you'll want Roman Reigns later. People will never ever like Roman Reigns now that you just, in general, just because you're facing them off against each other. People will now, because they're smarks, they're morons who think they're smarter than everyone else. They think, oh, well, AJ Styles is an Indies guy, so he must be like one of the best of all time. Thanks to Daniel Bryan. Everyone thinks that now, tiny little Indies guy. It must be the greatest of all time. I can't wait till Austin Aries debuts because they'll think he's the greatest of all time because him and Daniel Bryan are like the same size and height. Except, Austin Aries is older, yeah, and somehow less injury prone. But, so now you have the situation where people are going to boo Roman. If Roman loses, people are going to hate him even harder. People are going to laugh at him. And then people who are legitimate fans, reviewers, and things like that are going to criticize WWE's use of him and his legitimacy as a champion or his talent on the roster, and you hurt him a lot. If you have him win, you hurt him from the general day-to-day fan base's standpoint of, oh, I'm so sick of Roman, he's just getting pushed to the top. Of course he's going to be AJ. AJ's just some guy from the Indies, and Roman's Vince McMahon's pet. He's the new Cena, blah, blah, blah. So they've painted themselves into a corner now. Because the fan base, they painted themselves in a corner by making it AJ, and they could have just made it Cesaro. I mean, if he beats Cesaro, people will still be upset, but you won't have the people going, oh, yes, Cesaro's and also Indies guy, but he's a big guy. So, people aren't super attached to him the way they are to like an AJ or Daniel Bryan or whatnot. So, you have this situation now where you can Give him a match that would be a good match, and on top of that, I mean, adding Cesaro gave you the chance to have a good match and a match where you could have Roman Reigns win and prove that he's, worth a damn. But no, they stick him up against AJ, which will eventually kill his character. I honestly think they hate Roman Reigns. There's no excuse for anything to be that way. They have to just straight up hate Roman Reigns. I can't find any other thing in my mind to make me think different. But whatever, we'll get there when we get there. Join me next week when I'll be talking about Raw again. I don't know. They made a lot of good steps forward. They made a couple steps back. We'll see how things progress. It's a new wrestling year. Join me on the next one. Peace, love, and applesauce.